柴幹花咧，其實係蒙古語，即係白色咁解。其實就因為呢個地方咧好多鹽分啊。全中國咧一共有1億公頃嘅土地咧都係鹽鹼化嘅。當我哋中國嘅耕地缺乏嘅時候，修復翻一啲呢啲鹽鹼嘅土地，可以變成可以生產到農作物，咁會唔會係一種解決將來糧食安全問題嘅方法？
From domesticating wild plants and planting them as crops to modern food production, the fertile farmland is the result of thousands of years of agricultural evolution. As the world's population increases, so does the need and demand for food. Climate change, soil deterioration, the tug-of-war and interaction between the environment and agriculture all affect crop growth. Ensuring future food security is the most important topic studied by agricultural researchers.
世界上有幾樣好重要嘅嘢啦，環境啦、農業啦、能源啦，但係糧食呢個問題就有錢冇錢都要處理嘅。 特別仲影響緊冇錢嗰啲添，因為佢哋買唔起啲糧食咁。最需要嘅係乜嘢咧？咁我覺得食飽先啦，或者營養好先啦，係咪？咁所以每個人都需要嘅嘢嚟嘅。咁我就選擇咗呢一樣。
Food is essential. In a small town in Heilongjiang province, early in the morning, local residents queue up to buy tofu and soy milk for breakfast. It's relatively cheap and nutritious, with soybean as the raw material. From consumption as daily food to edible oil production and as animal feed, soybean has wide applications. It is an important source of dietary protein. The tiny soybean seed has an important position. Annual global trade of soy products has reached 200 million tons.
大豆營養價值嚟講咧，其實真係唔錯，因為佢可以有38%到40幾嘅蛋白啦，咁即係蛋白質我哋好需要啦。 咁有20% 到嘅油啦，咁油又好需要喎。咁然後咧，佢仲有好多礦物質啊，但係有一樣嘢好特別嘅，佢有好多我哋叫做黃酮類嘅代謝物，例如係異黃酮。咁嗰啲係對個身體健康係好有幫助。咁即係話我哋其實食粒豆咧，其實我哋得到各種各樣嘢，除咗能量之外，仲得到一啲好需要身體需要嘅其他嘢。咁其實 大豆其實你就咁食，佢就係爭咗一樣嘢嘅啫，即係佢有其中一隻氨基酸咧就比較少啲，嗰隻叫做甲硫氨酸啦。咁除咗呢樣嘢之外，其實佢大部分嘅嘢都可以喺豆裏邊獲得嘅。咁大豆亦都有個額外嘅好處，因為佢有固氮嘅作用咧，佢可以令到啲泥土咧少用啲肥料。
Lam Hong Ming specializes in molecular biology. He has spent the past 20 years conducting in-depth research into soybean.
而家我哋再考慮農業嘅時候咧，就會多角度思考，其中即係可持續農業發展同環境之間嘅協調，如果變成咗我哋一個好重要嘅課題。因為大豆本身係一個好重要嘅保護環境嘅作物嚟嘅，咁所以加埋一齊，就令到更多嘅年青嘅科學家又是重新再投入咗呢個大豆嘅科研裏邊。咁所以我覺得係好有希望可以通過呢啲年輕嘅科學家嘅努力，係可以將我哋嘅從科學上邊去改進我哋大豆，唔單止係產量，唔單止係有幾多油、幾多蛋白，而係再係將佢變成一個對環境更有好處嘅一個作物。 60年代初期咧，即係中國經歷過一啲好嚴峻嘅糧食短缺問題啦。咁成代人都會有一個危機感嘅，咁所以大家都係以產量為最主要嘅目標。咁更加比較少考慮就係話農業同呢個環境之間嘅矛盾，因為當我哋做大量嘅農業生產嘅時候咧，我哋其實係唔多唔少都破壞緊我哋嘅環境嘅。
Modern agriculture practices often deplete soil nutrients. For high yields, fertilizers must be applied, particularly nitrogenous fertilizers. In 2018, we will use more than 200 million tons of fertilizers, a 25% increase from 2008. Overutilization of chemical fertilizers not only inflates production costs, it also causes water pollution.
呢啲係咩嚟咧？呢個根瘤啦，打開佢啊！如果你見到係粉紅色嘅咧，就即係佢係活躍嘅，係做緊 nitrogen fixation 嘅根瘤咯。
A hectare of soybean is capable of transforming 100 kilograms of atmospheric nitrogen into organic substances in soil. This helps to replenish the soil, thereby reducing the need to use chemical fertilizers.
In the case of soybean, it's also known as the miracle legumes because soybean is uniquely contain both high protein and also a high level of oil that being utilized for numerous, applications from cooking oil to different ingredients that require, oil. What happened during the process of domestication? So soybean originated from a wild soybean species known as glycine soja, and I think that's where the soya bean name, came about. And then it was domesticated, by the very early farmer in China into a species known as glycine max. It's a cultivated species. And so during the domestication process and subsequently a lot of breeding selection process, what happened would be that we basically narrow the genetic basis of soybean. And so it's very much known as the genetic bottleneck, meaning that if we like to improve any particular trait in soybean, we very much have to go back to the original genetic diversity because a lot of genes been lost in the process of domestication. And so we have to go back and study the wild soybean, try to find the genetic treasure, if you will.
Lam Honming has always hoped to advance international collaboration on soybean research. He invites experts and young researchers from different countries to take part in this international conference in Hong Kong and have a discourse on how to promote the sustainable agricultural development of legumes. He hopes to build a network that can combine individual research output.
The 21st century is basically also known as technological advance for biology altogether, known as biotechnology and genomics. So there are many, many things that we can learn, the genetic structure of soybean and any other legumes that we could not do earlier. And that will provide the significant knowledge that can be applied to different places, different countries. So here we're talking about, technology development, genetic knowledge development. That could be done here, and there are many, many excellent scientists here in Hong Kong, and so I think it's certainly I congratulate Professor Lam and people in Hong Kong for this vision that I think would help participate in the international collaboration and provide knowledge that can be utilized not only in China but also other countries, around the world.
Some soybean accessions can adapt to the natural soil and climate conditions because they contain salt and drought-tolerant genes. If cultivated soybean can keep these genes, they can be planted in very diverse environments. Lam Hon Ming and his soybean center was the first to complete genome sequencing of 17 wild and 14 cultivated soybean accessions in 2010. The results were published in the journal Nature Genetics. In 2014, they identified the salt-tolerant gene in soybean. The natural properties of plants, such as their salt tolerance, are controlled by specific genes. Inside the genome, there's information called genetic markers. These markers are unique DNA sequences. They can help researchers to locate specific genes from the huge genome. By making use of genetic markers, Lam Hon Ming and his group found the region where the salt-tolerant gene is located. If a soybean contains a certain code sequence in the genome and exhibits salt tolerance properties, that means the genome that contains this code is related to the salt tolerance of the legume. But the salt tolerance-related region contains many genes. Plant science and molecular biology methods will be used to test and eliminate non-target genes so that the target gene that contributes to salt tolerance can be identified. By studying the genetic code of an ordinary soybean, Lam Hon Ming was able to bring advancement to science. He believes a lot of small but valuable details can be discovered in daily lives.
我可唔可以飲可樂咧？咁樣，我話唔得，5毫子美金太貴啦。咁佢嬲咗我好耐，因為可樂都唔俾我飲，咁咪真係好貴啊嘛。
5毫子美金，咪4蚊啫。
我哋嘅生活就係我哋有咩娛樂咧？就喺個密芝根湖邊行街咯。即係我哋星期日咁，我哋就2個人就喺度行啦。因為我哋冇任何錢去做任何娛樂，所以我好記得呢啲美國嘅日子啦。咁我就係得呢2個字嘅啫，即係話要有真實同埋有情感。咁我就可以喺啲好平凡嘅事裏邊咧，係去揾到我自己嘅一啲感覺啦。咁咧其實我本書叫《獅子山下我們家》，咁咧好辛苦喺網頁上面咧，我先揾到我哋間葉若榮小學嘅相。咁咧呢間學校已經唔再存在啦。咁其實我小學嘅時候咧，要考升中試，但係屋企又冇錢買補鐘練習啦，咁唯有去問我數學老師去攞啦。不過嗰時佢真係好好人，就俾咗我咯。
All these small details, when recorded, can touch many hearts. Lam Hon Ming grew up in an underprivileged family and used to live in public housing. He studied hard and entered a secondary school with English as the teaching medium. He had a lot to catch up and had experience of the gap between the rich and poor.
咁我由小學升上中學嘅時候咧，就有一間屋村嘅小學咧，就去到旺角間名校。咁名校裏邊有嚟自唔同階層嘅人啦，但喺度裏邊有好多人，佢有啲人相對地比我嚟講係有錢㗎啦，佢哋見識多啲啦，英文又好啲啦，衣着啊各方面都比我好啦。咁我嗰時有啲自卑，其實我嘅出身咧，其實令到我更加關心唔同嘅人，即係覺得人生而平等，但係佢處於嘅狀態可能唔同。咁如果我有能力嘅時候，我喺一個位置可以為嗰啲人做嘢嘅時候，我係咪應該去做翻啲嘢，令到人更加相處得平等和平啲咧？咁所以我揀嘅科研都係朝住呢啲方向去做。
There were early signs of Lam Hon Ming's enthusiasm for education. As an undergraduate, he taught classes in an evening school as a means to make ends meet, and was also able to help underprivileged students. After completing both his undergraduate and master's programs at CUHK, a scholarship enabled him to pursue his PhD in molecular biology at Northwestern University in the US. After graduation, he conducted postdoctoral research at New York University. In 1997, Lam Hon Ming returned to his alma mater CUHK searching for research directions. He met Professor Xiao Guihua from the Chinese Academy of Agricultural Sciences in 1998.
咁佢就花咗大半生人都係做大豆嘅內鹽研究嘅。佢哋喺好艱苦嘅條件下邊都冇放棄過呢個研究。佢覺得自己可能未必能夠去揾到答案， 咁我話：不如等我嚟試下用我嘅分子生物學嘅能力去幫助做呢件事。咁仲有一位就係喺香港嘅胡秀英教授啦。嗱，咁佢就請咗佢嘅學生咧，就幫我畫咗一張大豆花嘅手繪本。咁就將所有啲好微細嘅值得觀察嘅地方咧，都畫咗一張紙上面。然後佢就同我講：佢話你想做生物學嘅研究，可能第一件事係去觀察下個生命啦，去欣賞下個事，然後先再去理解所謂 DNA 或者其他一啲機理。
The diligence and meticulousness of the older generation of researchers left an indelible impression on Lam Hon Ming. He began his research in Ren Shu, a crop that first appeared in the Book of Odes. It's now known as soybean.
大豆咧就喺3000至5000年之前啦，喺中國起源嘅。咁佢咧傳到去美洲嘅有幾種講法嘅。咁其中一個比較有趣啲嘅傳說就係咧，因為當時咧啲商船咧，佢要由亞洲去到美洲嘅貿易，就經過海洋。海洋咧好多時候都好大嘅風浪，需要有啲嘢壓倉嘅。咁大豆就啱啱咪用作嚟壓倉用嘅。咁喺美國成功地種植大豆之後咧，咁佢後來就將呢個技術咧轉移到去南美洲嘅巴西同埋阿根廷。咁巴西、阿根廷種植大豆之後咧，通過出口咧幫助到佢哋國家嘅經濟。咁所以而家全球咧係以美國、巴西同埋阿根廷為主導咧，係生產咗大量嘅大豆出口。
You want to have all the roots like this.
Straight.
Yeah, in corn, in rotation, and fertilizing, and no tilt, help a lot for this. We need a lot of.
佢哋有好多年嘅種植經驗啦，咁佢亦都有好多田裏邊嘅生理嘅研究嘅數據係做得好仔細嘅。呢度亦都有好強嘅統計學嘅人才，所以佢哋係做到呢一方面嘅。咁我同佢哋傾嘅過程，我嘅理解咧。就有兩方面係可以進一步提升。咁第一個咧就係生物信息學同埋基因組學呢方面，因為佢哋喺呢方面咧係參與過世界嘅呢一方面嘅研究咧係相對地少嘅。咁反而呢一樣咧係我哋喺香港嘅隊伍咧係比較突出嘅。
Coming to Argentina, Lam Hon Ming believes that the genetic research from Hong Kong may help the locals solve the problems they face when farming soybean. Argentina is the world's third largest exporter of soybean. They plant mostly transgenic soybean coming from foreign countries. Though they have 40 years of experience, they still face a lot of problems. Lam Hon Ming's research into soybean genetics is exactly the knowledge local researchers hope to acquire to solve present and future problems.
So we think that is the way we can characterize germplasm, look for genes and GTLs. We can provide tools for high throughput phenotyping platforms and provide decision support systems for farmers.
阿根廷嘅大豆生產量排世界第3，大約種咗2000萬公頃嘅。通過砍伐森林，種植嘅範圍增加得好快，而且漸漸取代咗其他夏天嘅作物，好似一啲穀類咁。輪作即係輪流種植唔同農作物，咁樣可以防止土壤退化，保持生產力。但係我哋嘅農夫已經好少咁做，因為種大豆經濟效益高，而家變成咗單一種植，咁樣帶嚟好多問題。我哋面對其中一個問題係，阿根廷而家出現咗大約20種能夠抵抗除草劑嘅野草， 所以政府同我哋呢啲科研機構都致力改變固有嘅生產模式，比如推動輪作咁樣，會有助農業嘅可持續發展，亦都有助控制近年出現抗除草劑椰草嘅問題。
作為阿根廷嘅農業研究機構，我哋明白目前有兩個重要嘅課題，一個係我哋要快啲改變而家農業生產嘅模式，另一個係快速提升我哋嘅科研知識水平。我哋相信，唯一可以應付呢兩方面挑戰嘅方法，就係同其他科學技術研究機構合作。我哋會同香港嘅林教授有更深入嘅合作關係，亦期望通過香港同其他國家有更多嘅聯繫。
Okay.
Soybean export is a major source of income for Argentina, but years of continuous growth led to environmental neglect. This is a problem researchers must tackle.
First of all, because we have 20 million hectares, difficult to control the agrochemical application and this kind of stuff are being correct. What the farmers are applying is, this is a joint work all time, that they are not mixing agrochemical that cannot be mixed and this kind of thing. But this is related with farmer and with the soybean itself. I think that one of the major problems that we have is that we realize now that we deforest most of our forest areas. So this is a big problem because we already destroy our original biodiversity, and this is another big problem.
我哋嘅強項可能就係喺啲其實基因組啊、遺傳啊研究啦。我哋可以做到一啲呢個地方未必係最強嘅項目，例如就係點樣利用呢啲基因組嘅數據同環境嘅互作，同埋去解釋究竟科學上邊點去指出一個方向係可以做得更加好嘅。
A lot of Argentina's soybeans are exported to China. Though soybean was first domesticated in China, the country's production accounts for only 20% of her consumption. The remaining 80% is imported.
全球最大嘅入口國咧就係中國啦。咁樣呢啲國家所生產嘅大豆，通過貿易翻去佢哋嘅起源地中國。我覺得就好似我哋追逐緊嗰啲大豆嘅行蹤啦，即係我哋古代見到我哋中國其中一個好重要嘅農作物，即係散播到去世界各地咧。其實我哋都好想睇下佢喺世界各地最後落地生根之後會做成點啦。咁但係最終嘅目的就係話當佢喺各地都做得好好嘅時候。點樣又可以將呢啲知識啊，將呢啲種植嘅方法啊，又翻去我哋中國嘅土地上邊去做得更加好咯，或者甚至可以將世界各地嘅朋友又帶到嚟中國睇下我哋本身嘅大豆佢嘅研究同埋佢嘅喺中國嘅應用。
们这个地方是咱们平川的中部，海拔是1560，气候比较干旱，降雨就是200。
这主要是什么月份降？都是
主要在是7、8、9。
7、8、9都是快了。
就今年就前两，昨天刚下了雨。
From 2010 to 2015, the area of arable land in China has been reduced by 100 million mao, but the population has grown by 35 million in the same period. Besides the reduction of per capita arable land, 70% of this land is of only poor to medium quality. Much land is suffering from salinization.
种的挺茂盛的。
就这长的这个地方碱小。
这是碱地，
有盐碱，
有盐碱，不还能长啊？
还能长，所以我们这个土壤也是碱性的，现在就是个8点几
，8点几
啊？我们这应该是8.2吧，8.23吧。以前啊，我们这个种黄豆，不重视它。现在老板啊，通过这个实践，他就觉得这东西一比他就知道这东西要好好改良。没想到今年这个种黄豆2号表现这么好的。
These lands in Pingchuan have been abandoned for years. The soybean in this field is salt and drought tolerant. It is Longhuan No. 2. The unique nitrogen fixation power of soybean also helps improve soil quality so that the land can be restored for cultivation.
嚟嗰時候見到，哎呀，啲土地咁乾，我哋啲嘢究竟有冇死晒咧？咁樣，其實都心情好忐忑嘅。咁當我落咗車之後，覺得唉，仲有嘢睇，咁我哋行到埋去，見到其實都大部分都仲生得相當茂盛嘅。
Lam Honming is in charge of the partner state Key Laboratory of Agrobiotechnology at CUHK. When the salt-tolerant gene in soybean was identified, a new variety was created by artificial pollination. But it must be planted and tested to see if its yield is good. After 8 years, finally we have Longhuan numbers 1 and 2, which passed provincial government vetting in 2016.
咱们这个青阳的这个每年的这个大豆的播种面积在60万亩以上。它这个平均产量在100到150公斤。
100到150公斤，我们那能上吗？
这个肯定比那个高。
咱们已经是跨度1000多公里都能种。
那它以后的面积会很大。
我为中部农东。
呢度咧就係甘肅省東部啦，其實佢就係黃土高原啦。裏邊其中一個比較大嘅地區叫慶陽啦。好多年之前就識咗呢邊甘肅省農科院嘅朋友啦，咁其中一啲都係搞大豆嘅，大家都一路傾下，我哋可以點樣合作啦。佢哋即係做一啲傳統嘅育種工作啦，我哋做一啲雲子標誌或者其他嘅生理檢測咁樣。咁我哋咪一齊去喺好多嘅可能性裏邊去選擇啦。都搞咗好耐，批准咗2個。我哋希望咧我哋有第3個，估計喺2年度咧，應該都會被批准嘅。咁亦都希望呢2、3年能夠將我哋已經成功嗰2個推出去俾農民用。
As a scientist, Lam Honming hopes to share the product of his research with farmers and share his experience with the younger generation, sowing the seeds of scientific research in their hearts.
秦先生、林先生、赵教授发种子啊！
繼續努力啊！全世界人口咧，其實膨脹緊啦，即係我哋相信2030年，估計全球會有70億人啦。咁中國應該14至15億人啦。咁其實全球個糧食嘅需求都係好嚴重嘅。咁農業係一個唔可以缺乏嘅嘢啦。咁點樣可以更有效去種植咧？係需要有啲有心、有知識，亦都有能力嘅年青人啦。所以當我去同呢啲受助嘅中學生傾嘅時候，其實我鼓勵佢哋考慮一下，未來20、30年呢樣嘢可能就係佢嘅事業發展嘅一個好好嘅契機。咁如果多啲呢啲叻嘅有能力嘅人翻入嚟呢個農村裏邊，
我相信個面貌會唔同咗咯。
我每個人嘅能夠做研究嘅日子都有限，係咪？即係我哋唔可以話自己千秋萬世做。咁當然你可以令到自己成為一個代表性人物，通過你嘅研究去影響好多嘢，呢個係一個方向嚟嘅。
其實我相信做教育工作嘅都會知道咧，我哋係攞個心去做。
但係我哋喺大學裏邊工作咧，其實好重要嘅任務就係教育嘅工作。
Can only kill insect, not us。
當然啲課堂裏邊可以通過上課去教啲同學一般嘅知識啦。如果我係科學家，亦都係一個教育工作者，俾咗我一個咁好嘅舞台，我就係希望做一啲嘢可以幫到人，包括公正一啲發現啦嚇，或者過程教育嘅過程。我教我學生，我做一個身教，去影響我嘅學生，令到我嘅學生去到唔同嘅崗位都記住科學同人係一個密切嘅關係。
其實香港嘅大學做啲生物科技咧，都係啲好先進嘅科技。但係如果我哋淨係諗住呢啲先進嘅科技，而唔去諗下實際上啲農民喺土地上面對嘅問題，咁我哋就分開咗兩件事啦。
點解成日都會去做一啲譬如中學啊、小學啊、其他一啲科普嘅演講？其實就想話俾啲學生聽，其實農業本身都好重要，而且亦都係可以用高科技去做，亦都唔係好遙遠嘅嘢。即係香港呢一個角色，除咗金融經濟之外，其實我哋咁多人才，能夠成為一個世界嘅關注嘅一個中心，真係去帶動一啲世界性嘅研究，唔係更加凸顯到香港呢個國際城市嘅特色咩？
In another part of the world, in South Africa, soybean is cultivated as animal feed for livestock, but local production can only meet a third of the demand. Given the arid climate in South Africa, 87% of the land is not suitable for farming.
You see, there's a lot of side branches, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So low density farm will be the best.
Okay, this one is now at the end of the road.
Our mean yield in South Africa is still very low. It's about 1.7 tons per hectare. And this is mainly due to the climate conditions in South Africa. Sometimes we have enough rain, but sometimes we have too much rain. It's affecting it a lot. We are trying to get the farmers that farm in the western parts of South Africa, we are trying to get them also to plant soybeans, but it's much drier in those areas. And with droughts that we had the last few years, those farmers took a knock because soybeans you cannot plant and have success with it with a rainfall lower than 400 millimeters per annum. So some of the farmers, they planted for the first year and then they had a mishap, so they go out of the market again. So we have to convince them again that there is a place for soybeans in their region. When climate conditions go to normal again.
To boost soybean stress tolerance and yield, local researchers hope to learn from overseas counterparts.
So it's the same cultivar as the other one that you showed me there?
No.
Professor Ludidi has visited Lan Hong Ming in Hong Kong.
South Africa really mainly depends on rain-fed agriculture. So if it doesn't rain, then we are in serious trouble in terms of crop production. And this becomes even more important for soybean because in South Africa, soybean is mainly used for making feed for livestock. So this is feed that is used for cattle, and South Africa is an active cattle farming country. We also farm sheep, chicken, and all of those have a direct impact on food security. So the protein source for animals in the feed is actually soybean as the majority component of the animal feed.
Yeah, so, okay, yeah.
For me, my interest would be how that impacts on the ability of different genotypes of soybean to withstand drought, with the hope that we can then use molecular breeding to establish our own cultivars that are drought tolerant. So that is really the contribution of the international community, and specifically Hong Kong, because they have that expertise. So if we can bring those forces together, we can really take soybean research in South Africa further. We use the same kind of genomic technologies and breeding technologies to try and improve the way the plant tolerates infection by pathogens. So if we, in the end, can have a series of varieties of soybean that are drought tolerant but also disease tolerant, that would really push South African soybean production, which would really have a solid impact on food security in South Africa, and that is one of the focuses that I have as a scientist and a citizen of the country.
From here on, we start with another institution.
Yes.
This is from Brazil.
This is from Brazil, tropical.
From Embrapa.
I see.
And they sent us this seed this year. And again, you can see the emergence wasn't very good. Can you see? There's a plant, there's a plant, there's a plant. And I don't replant. I want to show them that there's a problem with this seed.
Yes. But this is a good one. Many.
It's good at this stage. You're seeing a lot of flowers.
Yes.
What we are doing here is that we test some soybean lines or genotypes from institutions abroad, and especially from South America, where we have some of Argentina lines, Brazilian lines, and also Uruguay. So they bring their lines here, and we test them against our own controls or checks. And we test them for adaptability to our conditions in South Africa, and also for yield.
我覺得即係正如所有發展中國家咧，即係有一個政府嘅介入係比較重要，因為做科研係會帶嚟一個自主知識產權嘅產物，譬如種子。咁如果你所有種子都係從外國輸入嘅話，可能要同一啲跨國公司去買嗰個專利權去用佢，咁本身就已經係會令到個利潤低咗。如果你叫本地嘅種子公司要投入一個好大量嘅人力同埋財力去做，佢未必願意去做。如果你叫大學去做，佢又未必有專門去做種子嘅一個部門。但係如果由政府出一啲資助啦，結合翻當地嘅大學啦，再同當地嘅農民或者農業機構一齊去做咧，咁就有機會做到佢哋自己本身嘅種子。我覺得咁樣對於佢嘅南非長遠嚟講咧，係一個最好嘅方法去發展佢哋嘅大豆嘅產業。
In the future, I guess when you have more soybean grow in South Africa, you can also consider that. Then you can earn more money.
我諗其實我哋喺大學裏邊工作，我哋都係希望將個知識去服務更多人啦。咁如果佢哋有一個成功嘅例子做到咧，能夠利用呢啲大豆之類嘅作物去改善佢自己農作嗰個可持續性咧，其實我好希望佢哋可以將呢個經驗咧輻射俾其他非洲嘅國家，因為其他非洲嘅國家佢哋相對地可能個經濟條件係冇南非咁好，技術亦都係有一定距離。
There's a saying in Africa, if you want to run fast, run alone. If you want to run far, run together. Lam Hon Ming began his soybean research in 1998. It has taken him to different parts of the world and to collaborate with researchers in many other countries. In particular, he hopes to work with young researchers to solve problems in different parts of the world.
It's encouraging for young people, researcher of his level, with all his knowledge, is interested in what we do, and he wants to support us. The most attractive thing from him was listen a prestigious professor from abroad talking about what I believe. I don't believe in too many things, but I believe that to make good science, we need to approach in a multi-scale, with a multi-scale approach, we can solve some problems in science.
林汉明教授。
我嘅科學包括有一個準確嘅數據啦，有一個精確嘅分析，無論大小都好啦，喺個科學理念上邊能夠帶出一啲新嘅結論。唔係每個科學家都攞到諾貝爾獎，咁係咪表示攞唔到嘅科學家就係冇貢獻？其實唔係咁樣。其實我哋每一個科研人員喺每一個嚴謹嘅實驗，最終嘅目的係如何將科學推向前，變成一啲改善人類生活嘅嘢。
Researchers try to advance scientific developments through technology. But once they're outside the laboratory, other factors come into play. As an alumnus of CUHK's New Asia College, Lam Hon Ming has a macro worldview of harmony of man and nature that sustains his research.
初嗰時做呢啲生物科技，成日覺得自己係好叻嘅。係當你去到一個土地裏邊，見到一個自然界裏邊嘅力量啦，即係唔係話你咁容易，你一個人就可以去克服嘅好多困難。咁你會喺呢個大地面前謙虛啲啦。我哋即係順應緊呢個自然嘅環境，而睇下佢嘅規律係點樣。喺規律之下，我哋點樣能夠做得最好？第二種謙虛就係當我哋睇到啲農民啊，佢哋嘅勤懇工作，佢哋有佢哋嘅智慧啦。可能同我哋諗法唔同，但係佢哋有辦法喺呢啲地方生存啦。咁佢哋嘅傳統智慧咧，好多時候係俾我哋啲所謂現代科學家有少少忽略咗。
因为今天是由于下雨了，这个盐碱地啊不是那么明显。实际上，这个盐分啊，这个水的盐分啊还是很高的。那我们隔壁这就是改造的，那就是良田。我们看到这个金黄色的米已经成熟，接近成熟了，再有半个月就要收获了。
This green patch of rice paddy is the result of years of hard work by researchers. The pH value for some of the saline alkali land in Jilin province reaches 10, double that of normal farmlands. If the soil contains 2% of salt, crops can't grow.
苏打盐碱地的一个最主要的危害呢，是它的反碱这个现象。当天晴的时候，盐因为水位很高，盐就反上来了。下雨阴天的时候呢，因为蒸发量少，它又下去，盐又下去了。所以盐碱的反复现象是盐碱地治理的一个很重要的原因。
10 years ago, Zhang Shihong conducted his postdoctorate research in Lam Hon Ming's laboratory. He returned to Jilin and researched the restoration of saline alkali land.
之前呢，还种一下旱地，就是种来筛选那些抗盐碱的大豆。
现在是立体改造。
对，立体改造。
The researchers have selected a material with the atom size between nano and micro. It's made into a thin membrane and is used to cover the soil. Salt-absorbing microorganisms are introduced to improve the soil. These measures, together with salt-tolerant crops, can restore saline alkali land to arable land.
4年前， 我们就从香港中文大学他们就把这些大豆品系300多，在这个吉林省的几块重度盐碱地上，在农安、在大安，包括在松原这一带呢，我们就种植。
我们基础构设就要讲往里面讲，把它的机理讲清楚。
林老师一直是在抗疫方面做相关的研究嘛，特别在机制研究方面，而且他不仅关注的这个是抗盐的机制，他也关注实际的应用，包括他选育的这些抗盐的品种。所以到这边实际的盐碱地的环境上，我们才能想到既要抗盐的植物，也要在土壤上去改造。实际上，在盐碱地治理方面，它抗盐机制的研究这个方向，促使了我在盐碱地治理方面呢，向这方面去设想。
The soybeans bred by Lam Hon Ming have yet to be harvested from this piece of land, but he hopes to work with other scientists to speed up scientific advancement.
將唔同嘅技術夾埋一齊，每人都貢獻一部分，然後到最後能夠將呢個地方本來係一個荒地變成一個農地，令到農民嘅收入增加，幫助到佢哋生活。我覺得呢樣嘢先係最成功。
Harvests in the fields are the results of long years of hard work by numerous researchers. This laboratory at CUHK was set up by Lam Hon Ming. As time goes by, generations of researchers have studied here and made use of what they've learnt.
喺香港主要係做一啲基礎科學嘅研究，例如係抗疫啦、內鹽啊、內旱啊，或者抗病啊，係利用我哋嘅高新科技係點樣去從有用嘅資源裏邊去揾到有用基因。但係我哋更加睇到咧，未來嗰個農業同環境之間嗰個平衡係好重要，因為過去好多年都係大家都會覺得農業本身係一個破壞緊環境嘅一個操作，咁所以我哋就會做呢啲叫做環境互作嘅研究。喺呢個研究咧，影響嘅人就唔係淨係中國啦，佢會影響好多地方，尤其是啲發展中國家，當佢要嘗試去做唔同作物去增加佢經濟收入嘅同時，如何去考慮下環境可持續發展。咁我覺得喺呢個係時候去組織一個國際嘅團隊一齊去就住呢個作物同環境之間嘅互作，喺個學術水平上面做一個探討先。咁然後喺每一個地區就翻佢自己本身嘅佢哋當地嘅環境氣候嘅特色，去再深入地去做應用嗰部分。
By learning from the last generation of scholars, Lam Hon Ming began his scientific research career. He believes that scientific results are cumulative. That's why he strives to educate. He passes on knowledge, and more importantly, a meticulous research attitude, as well as an understanding of the connection between science and humanity. His research is conducted with a concern for humanity.
科學就係咁樣發展，就正如人類嘅文明向前，一樣都係靠呢種代代嘅承傳同埋不停咁發展，同埋希望大家唔係只係從自我嘅中心去諗一個成敗，而係睇下喺個長遠嘅時空裏邊，究竟能唔能夠將成個人類嘅社會可以改善，同埋將個文化素質提高。